Recording in progress.
Did we start the recording? Excellent. Good evening, everyone. Welcome into July 10th, 2025. Thanks for joining us at the community room for New Song Church, where we have gathered for multiple years to do the Oversight Committee for the Northeast Housing Strategies. I'm Dr. Holt. I chair the committee, and I'm looking forward to a robust discussion tonight. There are many things for us to cover, and hopefully we'll have a good crowd to ask some pertinent questions as we cover the items that are in front of us. One specific thing that we're hoping to make determination around is in regard to the preference policy update and some strategies around some adjustments for the implementation of the process. Either way, we are going to definitely have a chance to engage around it. I'm glad you're here on a warm, sunny evening in July. What a great way to spend a summer evening together. With that being said, you should have an agenda. And for those who are online, I think there's a way for us to get them such so you can see what's going on. Tonight, we're going to follow the agenda. If you have concerns, if you have thoughts, suggestions, ideas, things that you want to cover that are not on the agenda for the night, I'm going to ask two things. I'm going to ask for those who are in the room and are Portland Housing Bureau people to identify yourself by holding your hand up, Portland Housing Bureau staff, so you can inquire to those who are in the room. And if you're online, if you would turn on your camera for a moment so you can be seen, Portland Housing Bureau folks, so people can see who you are.
Navisha, you're upside down.
Yes, I'm trying to fix that. Thank you.
I was going to say I'm super impressed.
Gravity is my friend.
Gravity is your friend. So welcome into tonight. Helmi is joining us virtually, and she is the director for the Portland Housing Bureau. I'm going to move it to you, Ms. Isarick.
Thank you so much. I apologize that I'm not there in person tonight. I have to leave a little early, but our Angel Landron Gonzalez, our deputy director, and Leslie Goodlow, our executive team operations and equity manager, are representing today. So really appreciate the ability to speak to you all online. So I just wanted to begin by thanking Dr. Holt and Leslie Goodlow for leading the presentation to City Council Homeless and Housing Committee about the Northeast Housing Strategy 10-year anniversary last month. I also just want to congratulate the entire Northeast Committee. It was an excellent presentation, and the report is really, I think it's quite an extraordinary report that shows real progress in Northeast Portland. And I think that the message was sent loud and clear to the City Council Committee that this is a model for neighborhood-based leadership that we want to not only celebrate and support the work you've done, but replicate this model across the city. And I was looking back at my notes from my director's report last year, this time, July of 2024. And I was reminded that when we went to the Northeast City, when we took the Northeast report to the City Council, there was a glitch in the invitation and a whole bunch of us ended up on a Zoom call. We weren't even in the council meeting. And so this year things ran a lot more smoothly, and I was really personally glad to be part of the presentation. I also was looking back at a year ago and saw that I had reported to this committee that we were recruiting a deputy director and we had 68 applications. and we were recruiting a planning and policy director, and we had 71 applications. And this year, I just want to share that I think we have the best executive team of any bureau in the city, and we're gelling as a team, and we're getting a lot accomplished. Yeah, really, really so pleased to be able to work with Josh Roper, Angel Landron Gonzalez, and Leslie Goodlow as the core team. And then, we still have a group of very strong managers, some of whom are here tonight online, who support the work of the Bureau and really are an amazing group of people. So a few of the things that our team is working on, I'm just going to highlight a few things. First of all, Leslie Goodlow is leading the work on the TIF district committee formation, and together with Josh Roper. And quite honestly, they're using the North-Northeast Committee as a model for the Community Leadership Committee. So we're really hoping down the road we can get the leadership committees that are formed for the TIF districts to actually come to the North-Northeast meeting and see what it's all about, see what it's like when you run a community-focused, community-led meeting that really has significance. Angel Landron got us through the city budget. And so the city, the good news for the Portland Housing Bureau is that we did not have significant cuts. And we did get a little additional funding for a few projects. One of the projects we received funding for was have $500,000 for a home sharing pilot, which is something we're going to be exploring in the coming year. Is what's that look like? How might we pilot home sharing? We did not get funding we requested for the vacancy fund for the preference policy, which actually was the thing we as a staff had prioritized as our number one request. So unfortunately, the council didn't vote for that, but we are going to continue looking as a bureau for resources that can implement that program. We think it's so important that even though we did not get general discretionary funds for that, we're going to look for another resource and try to make that happen. Mayor Keith Wilson has asked the Portland Housing Bureau to start a shelter to housing strike team, and meeting with him on a weekly basis to figure out how to help people move out of shelters into vacant units in the city. And I have tapped John Trin, who as the leader or the manager of our homeownership program, but I've asked him to step up and lead that. He's one of our strong managers in the Bureau, and he has jumped in with both feet and is doing an extraordinary job getting us moving together with the mayor, and he will be leading those meetings with the mayor on a weekly basis. And the mayor has actually asked us to go to Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, to meet with their mayor and to meet with their strike team on homelessness. Atlanta is actually one of the cities in the US that has had really significant improvement in their homeless numbers in terms of people getting housed. And so he wants us to see that work. They also have a home sharing program that he wants us to take a look at. So we're going to be going there in early August to meet with the mayor of Atlanta and learn what they're doing there. And we'll happily bring that information back here. We are developing a scope of work for a study, the social housing study, which is a one-year study on social housing, which we're very excited about. I'm personally excited about, and we are right in the early phase of this. We are scoping the study now, and we are doing a deep dive, looking at a literature review, looking at international and domestic best practices. And we expect to be rolling the community engagement part of that scope of that study out in October to February. That'll be our time frame for really engaging folks. I wish it could be in a beautiful summer month, but we're gonna do it during the rainy season. And then finally, the city of Portland is undertaking a review of advisory bodies, this process for establishing advisory bodies. There's been so much change with the city council and the mayor in terms of process, who appoints, who approves, that they've asked the Office of Civic Life to actually kind of review best practices, think about the policies to seat advisory bodies. And so in light of that, we have we are basically holding off, putting a pause on the recruitment of the Portland Affordable Housing Commission, which is the advisory body that will advise the Portland Housing Bureau on broader policy questions. So we're going to wait to see what is going to come out of this city study. And we're going to continue to talk about the good work of the Northeast Committee, lifting you all up as an example of a community committee that really gets the work done. So that's all I have to report today. And, we'll be sticking around, happy to answer if there's any questions or comments that people want to make on the report, happy to do that.
Well, thank you very much, Director. I do want to also acknowledge the opening of the meeting with City Council as we presented our report, the very clear, direct encouragement from our director around this work to City Council, not only of its value and of its significance, but she clearly articulated that this group has done work that is unprecedented and should be acknowledged. And I just want to thank you for supporting the work of the Oversight Committee. Appreciate your leadership and your boldness, and then your effort to help create other pathways to find financing and secure dollars for us to continue this necessary work of helping to house people, especially the people who've been most impacted by the policies in the city that have gentrified and displaced so many. So thank you for your leadership. Very much wanted to say that. Any questions for our director, the director of the Portland Housing Bureau from the team tonight? And I realize I did not do roll call. I'm waiting for some others, hopefully, so then we'll get to a quorum. It's not forgotten or lost on me. Thank you, Director. We will go to our next item on the agenda. Ms. Gwen Thompson, if you'd come and join us. Happy Thursday to you.
Happy Thursday, Dr. Holt. Good to see everybody. Nice to see the committee. Welcome to everybody who is online. It is on. How about that? Okay. Next slide, please. So to start, I just wanted to give an update on the Oversight Committee recruitment. The recruitment started on June 17th, and we currently have roughly 9 applicants. There may be a couple of more. The last time I checked was a few days ago, so hopefully they're continuing to come in. The recruitment closes August 3rd, so we've got just a little under a month remaining. And so we're going to need to be creative in how we amplify the actual recruitment, and I've got a few ideas I want to share with the committee for that. But first, I want to just share with you what's up next. So after we receive the full packet of applications, Dr. Holt and Leslie review those and conduct interviews. We're hoping to have that process completed by mid-August. Afterwards, Dr. Holt makes the calls to the candidates and confirms them. And then we have onboarding. So we're hoping to be a little bit more clever or creative with our onboarding this time. One of the things that we're able to do in addition to bringing, some wonderful food and finding a good location is to have you all present, because there's no one better to let our new applicants know what this process is about and what it means than all of you. So I'll be reaching out and hopefully not only inviting you, but getting your ideas and how to make that a special time for them. Next slide, please. So here's some of the ideas that the communications team has come up with for amplifying the recruitment. First up, we've had 3 social media posts thus far. 2 are completed on Facebook and Twitter. And then we have one that's going out more than likely on Monday. So that would be 3 of them. We don't want to inundate the market with our recruitment, right? But we want to make sure that the message is getting out. So we're pretty good on social media. Our recruitment has also been posted on Civic Life's newsletter and website. Up next for next week is Rose City Connection, which is the City of Portland's newsletter. And my colleague Gabriel will also be sending out an e-blast to our partner organizations. Then we've got our summer newsletter that comes out next week. And I'll give you guys a rundown of that, but I did report on it last time I was here. So we've got, fortunately, Helmi writing the welcome message. We've got some important news and updates. One of the news items is the report that went to the Housing and Homelessness Committee. So we'll make sure that that is being amplified. And then one of the really good things that I'm excited about for the summer newsletter is a story about the Paramount. Ms. Leslie has shared her personal experience with the Paramount, but I think it's really exciting that the plans that Albina Vision Trust has for the Paramount. So that's one of the stories. But again, I'll touch on that lineup in a few minutes. But I also wanted to say that we plan to amplify the recruitment with Black organizations here in Portland that we're not always in touch with, so it gives us a chance to build a relationship with some of those organizations. Next slide, please. Wanted to provide you with an update. There is a reason why I use Miss Leslie's picture. I'll tell you in a second. So, quick update on outreach and engagement. As you guys all know, outreach and engagement is foundational to ensuring residents, agency partners, and other community stakeholders receive program information, vital news, and updates, and are welcome to participate in decision-making. PHB staff regularly attend community events, connect with residents and families. So we want to also welcome all of you. So in order for us to achieve that, we need to get the information out to you timely so that you know when these events are happening. And so the comms team is committed to doing that, so be looking forward to our emails. We'll let you know at least 2 weeks in advance of each event and what information you might find most beneficial in sharing. Next slide, please. So here are some of the recent events that PHB staff have attended. Generally speaking, we table at these events, so we bring not only some cool swag for people to take with them with our logo, but also program information about the lead program, the housing repair program, et cetera. So we've got the North Portland Resource Fair. Learn, Share, Do is an event that happens in Gresham, a couple of Juneteenth events, the Multnomah County Fiesta 50th Anniversary Fair, which was really fun, and then Northeast Cully Sunday Parkways. Some upcoming events include the Salvation Army Back to School Fair. That's a really great opportunity to connect with families. SEI's Homecoming, another really great opportunity to connect with residents and families. And then we just learned at one of the TIF meetings about the Cully Festival. So I'm looking forward to getting more information to share about that one, and I'll send that all out to you. Next slide, please. So our fall newsletter. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold, so losing my voice a little bit. What we need for fall is someone, any of you, to volunteer to write the welcome message. I know you've heard my appeal many times, and thank you, Ms. Virgie. It was really nice having you write a message in the past. So if you'd like to volunteer, I won't pick on anybody, but if you like to volunteer, you're all welcome. Just let me know. And with that, I'll let you know about the upcoming summer newsletter. So next week, our newsletter comes out. Again, thank you so much, Helmi, for writing the welcome message. I promise to get you a draft that you can review soon. For news, we've got the update of the annual report and the recruitment. Some updates that are coming from our programs include NHP and the preference policy. They've both submitted both of their write-ups. The stories include the Paramount, and then a very special story about a woman by the name of Pamela Jelks. Leslie mentioned her in her report to the Housing and Homelessness Committee, but it really was a really heartwarming story about a woman whose father built their home and lost their home through eminent domain, and she was able to be resilient and surmount so many different challenges. And she received help from both the Water Bureau and the Housing Bureau, and said it felt like Superman had come calling at her door. So, really wonderful story. Lastly, we'll be mentioning resources, which includes asset preservation and eviction protection, and then the typical calendar. So that is my report.
Well, thank you very much. Exciting things going on. Absolutely. That's worth celebrating. Gwen, I've said this before. I appreciate that you have helped bring attention to what I think has been a standard-setting committee for the city. That community engagement really has taken its path from our cutting of teeth and how we have engaged community, and it has been one of the groups that was the most unheralded and untalked about group for the city of Portland, and we have done remarkable work in terms of moving this agenda and helping to house people. And so thank you. I think that this is the kind of thing that folks we should have signs on the streets, and people should have bullhorns on the corner talking about from preventing displacement to creating homeowners, to helping people get into brand new units, et cetera, and then all of the things that go along with that. I think that this can't be noisy enough, and you've done a great job helping to bring attention to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Holt.
Appreciate that. Do we have any questions for Gwen? No? Miss Sheila, any question?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Gwen. Appreciate it. Our next presenter tonight is John Trenton. And is Ira coming to join you? Okay. Well, good to see you.
All right. Good evening, Oversight Committee member, Dr. Holt, leadership team, and colleague. I'm here with my colleague, Ira Bailey. He will be joining us shortly. He just stepped out really quick. But we're here to present you in terms of the preference policy home ownership preservation update and also some home repair. But before we get to Ira, I just give you a quick before I give you a quick update.
Hustle, young man, hustle.
All right, Ira Bailey, why don't you take it over?
Good evening, thank you, and I apologize for the slight delay. But my name's Ira Bailey, and I'm a program coordinator at the Housing Bureau. Just wanted to give you an update on the home ownership for preference policy process. Currently, unfortunately, we have not had a new homeowner since the last time I got to speak to you wonderful folks. However, we do have a person shopping in the interstate corridor urban area as we speak right now. So they were awarded a DPAL at the end of last year, or at the end of the last fiscal year. So they'll have about a couple months to keep shopping for that. But again, to date, we have helped 130 families become first-time home buyers, which I'm still excited about that. Next slide, please. So here is a breakdown of the ethnicity, race and ethnicity data for those home buyers. We have had 103 African-American home buyers, 1 Native American, 7 white, 3 people who have identified as multiracial, nothing specific there, 1 person who has identified as Asian, and 4 folks who have identified as Hispanic. So we are reaching all of the population of the city of Portland. Next slide, please. As far as income demographics, this is something I am really excited about because we have helped people as low as I mentioned before as 15% AMI. And we have funding right now that supports households who make up to 120% AMI. The largest part of folks who we have been able to help have sat between 60% and 100% AMI. And we are able to do that with strategic and grateful partnerships with Proud Ground, Habitat for Humanity, Portland Housing Center, Native American Youth and Family Center, African American Alliance for Homeownership, Portland Community Reinvestment Initiatives, as well as Hacienda CDC. But as you can see also, we have helped 119 total households have been subsidized. So the reason why there is that discrepancy is that there have been families who entered through the preference policy, and because we've partnered with Portland Housing Center, have been able to receive homebuyer education and counseling, and through their own means been able to achieve homeownership without our dollars. Next slide, please. So just as a breakdown of where we're currently sitting, we have had 3 rounds of the homebuyer preference policy, one in 2016, one in 2019, and one most recently last year. Our goal overall is to have 200 home purchases by the end of 2028. Right now, we have 136 households overall in this last session have been invited to attend info sessions. Unfortunately, there is some attrition that happens. And so of those 136, 34 families were eminent domain or 7-point households. 102 were 6-point households. We invited a lot more, unfortunately, than people who actually attended. So we do, again, have that attrition. We most recently had a virtual session for people who did miss the first 2 info sessions that we had. So we had one in January, and we had one in May. Folks missed them. We said, hey, we want to give you another chance, really. And as I tell people in the info sessions, the worst reason to miss out on homeownership is not showing up. So we did the virtual. We caught a few more people to be able to get in. But as I mentioned before, out of the 136, 36 were rescinded, either failure to respond, they did respond and said they were going to show up and just no-showed and didn't call us, or by the time we invited them to the info session and the info session happened, they had already purchased a home, which is a good reason to be rescinded. Next slide, please.
Ira, real quickly, do we have any idea how many actually that did not need the service who had actually purchased out of those 36? Do we have any idea?
For those who responded, I can tell you, yes. So of the invites, there were 2 households who responded, I don't need the services, I've already purchased.
Did they go through the Portland Housing Center? Do we know?
We don't know. So
Okay. All right.
they had RSVP'd that they had already purchased.
Okay.
One person actually did attend the info session, and at that time said that they had already purchased.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. So sometimes the families are applying in hopes that this supports them in buying a second home. So that's kind of where that comes from. And so our next steps, we are at the 5-point households. I sent out 52 invitations. That's how many people we had in that cohort. 37 RSVP to attend. I had 14 no responses, unfortunately. One person said, I will come in, but I have to do it the next round. Just because they'll be out of town. And we're going to have those sessions July 14th and August 4th. The reason why we're going that far out is because sometimes there's only one counselor at Portland Housing Center, and along with assessing the brand new households, she's still counseling the current and existing households. So her schedule gets booked out pretty far in advance. But we are at this time planning on inviting the 4-point households. There will be 59 invites in that cohort. Those dates will be September 15th and October 19th for those 2 sessions. October 9th, sorry. I was imagining a 10 there. So we're going to do that, and then we'll have a virtual session after that for people who may have missed the 5-point invites and the 4-point invites. And so the remaining info sessions that we'll have, there's 163 households. And then as you can see, there's a breakdown. We have 45 3-points, 42 in the 2-point, 26 in the 1-point, and 50 in the 0-point, which are people who did respond, who applied with 0 points, but said, hey, I am who I say I am and want to try this opportunity out. So next slide.
All right, next slide is really in terms of home repair updates around the interstate URA urban renewal area. We have 2 types of programs in terms of home repair. One is grants, and with the grants, we supply money to our community-based organization, CBO, which is a nonprofit, to provide home repair services to households who may need some repair for safety and concerns. The grants is about $10,000 on average to the home. And again, there's no lien on the home. It's a grant, and the contractor will work with the homeowner, get it repaired, and that's about it. So it's a pretty easy program. Unfortunately, some of the nonprofit agencies that we work with has a long waiting list, and so you just have to call around. Some of the nonprofit that we work with is Latino Network, Native American Youth and Family, Hacienda, and so forth. So look at our website and you'll find more information regarding in terms of our partner agency that we work with. As you can see in terms of the fiscal year, FY's fiscal year home repair grant, we went in 2020 to 2021, really the start of COVID. We were down to 71, 74, and again, averaging around 70 and 80 household during the COVID period. Right, as we end COVID, we had more capacity. We were back in the office, back in the field. Contractors were working. We started to increase that to 121 households within the northeast area. 24-25, this is the past fiscal year. We're at 101. Again, we're still waiting for numbers to come in, so there was a little asterisk around that as our community-based organization are reporting their outcomes to us as part of their final reporting for the fiscal year. The other product we have is a home repair loan. The loan program is based on in terms of household having equity in their home, and they could take a loan up to $40,000 with us. With the $40,000, they could do repair among the home, the roof, electrical, flooring, plumbing, and so forth. The great thing about this loan program is that it's zero interest, zero payment, and if the homeowner continues to reside and live there, after 15 years, the loan is forgiven. So another great product to really allow people to age in place. The number you see there from terms of from 2020 to 2025, again, we're starting out 16, and then during the COVID period, 7, 6, 9. And as we start to pick up and we hired a new staff during this past calendar year, we have 11. And so I'm hoping to see that number continue to increase. Again, that number also rely on the budget of having funding to provide those home repair loans. So it's very important to continue to advocate for dollars to go towards home repair loans. I also want to just give a quick update that recently I applied for some funding with Oregon Housing Community Services for veteran dollars, and we got awarded some money for down payment assistance and also home repair. So it's great to be able to leverage different resources to help our Portlanders, and especially help North and Northeast. So if you know any veteran who are first-time home buyer, who wants to buy a home, or need home repair, please reach out to me. More information will be rolling out in the next couple of months, not a couple of months, in 30 days, as we start to put together the guidelines around this new funding for us.
Congratulations on that. That's great news.
Thank you.
Yeah. One of the, my opinion, not the opinion of the Oversight Committee, my personal opinion, one of the groups, people groups in our community that I think are the most overlooked are veterans, folks who've served the country, put their lives on the line, and then come home to such poor support. I have family members who are struggling veterans and PTSD, and it's insane to me that we would ask people to risk their lives and then not take care of them when they return. So I appreciate that work. I see your... Yeah, I will go to my team in just a second.
Oh, I just wanted to mention, as we're rolling out the VA, that we should connect with the county. They have a VA program through DCHS that we can get referrals through.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the team. I will go virtually first. Ms. Sheila, questions, comments?
So my only question is, this coming year, are you anticipating that your partners are going to be able to bring more folk in to take advantage of the program?
Do you mean the home repair program or
Yes.
the?
Yeah, Thank you for the question. I think what we're going to do is really be strategic in terms of our outreach program. So we're working closely with Gwen on the outreach plan to really get the information out to our community around home repair grants and the availability of funding. We do have some funding around home repair loan that we received this year, so some money within Interstate and social lends. So we're excited to be able to start to work with our community members and see and get people to apply.
Other question? Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Sheila, does that help?
Yeah, some.
Any follow-up? Did you have a follow-up question?
Well, I guess what I was just trying to figure is, we talk about how many folks are out there that are in jeopardy of losing a home, and it's cheaper to keep them in it than to try to get a new one. And so that's why I was asking the question. Do we have a sense of inventory of who's out there? How many folks still own their homes but are in dire straits and in potential jeopardy of losing them or having to need serious repair?
Sure. We do keep a list of folks who reach out to us, and if we don't have funding, we keep them on that list. And so when we do have funding, we go back to that list and reach out to those folks to make sure if they need additional assistance from us. So we have a pretty long list that one of my colleagues is keeping track and keeping a rolling updated information regarding in terms of where they are, what their needs are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Washington, good to see you tonight.
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
No, I just caught the back end of that. I'm still having technical difficulties, but
Glad
I'm
you're
here
in,
now.
buddy. Glad
Yep,
you're in.
yep.
Excellent. Thank you. Kevin, question, comment?
Nope, no questions. Thanks, guys. Thank you all.
Ramon?
No questions.
Miss Virgie?
No questions.
Thank you. John, two questions. One, do we know the ethnic makeup in terms of the folks that are being served? And we don't have to go through all of it now, but do we have that information
For home repair,
for home repair?
it's in our report.
Yes, we do. The answer is yes.
Really, it's not for me. It's really for others. I just want to
Yes.
make sure it's
And then I
highlighted.
think Ms. Leslie Goulart was saying that it's in the North Northeast report.
Yep.
And I'm happy to share you more ethnic data if that.
Absolutely. And I think just for the people who are, that wasn't really for my sake, the question, but I think it's great to add that information as we get it for the other to have that in display so people are seeing
Sure.
the work we're doing and who we If you could, I don't know if the camera can pan to Vanna beside me, who is displaying the information. All right.
That's just, our report was very comprehensive. That's all.
The report was amazing. It was a great report. And then the second question.
Excuse me, if I may. I want to point something out to future recording of that.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed when I was a homeownership counselor is depending on what was going on in society and in the communities, there were some folks who were afraid to start reporting their racial and ethnic background
True.
and heritage. And so there is an option for decline to verify or unknown in many of the applications that our community partners have and that we have. And so some of that information may get a little skewed because of the current
Oh, absolutely.
status of our.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Ira, for that update. My questioning behind it is to continue to illustrate that we are reaching the populace that we've been targeting. I think it's important to keep telling the story repeatedly over and over and over and over and over again, even in light of the current federal concerns and administrations and so forth. Last question is this. With the new hire, and maybe you can't answer this, with the new hire, is there a strategy that's being implemented so that we can increase these numbers? How we're going about making homeowners aware of these incredible resources?
All right, that's an excellent question because my team and I met this morning to talk about that. And we will be setting up a meeting next week to really think about a strategy of outreach. when we do receive new dollars. We want to be really mindful in terms of how we get the information now and target the right information, the right folks who needs the services, because we want to make sure people are retaining and staying at home.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate
Welcome.
you.
Thank you.
Excited about that. Got to get this word out to as many people as possible. It's who we are, what we want to do. We're going to talk about, I think, one of the most critical pieces of the work that we're involved in. That's the preference policy. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time kind of working through some of the things that were presented to us in our last meeting and hopefully moving to a place of determination tonight. The reason why I did not do roll call, again, hoping for other members to come into our meeting so that we could have quorum in order to make a determination tonight. So, with that being said, there is a Oversight Committee member who has not been with us for over a year. And we have, is it almost two? We have taken, I think, just about every step to connect and coordinate and follow up and capture, and just have had no feedback and no fortune. My hope and my prayer and my trust is that there's not anything that's happened to this particular member, very valuable individual, but has not been a part of our committee. So officially, she'll be dropping off as a member of the committee, and therefore would give us quorum tonight to make an official determination. So if that makes sense to the Oversight Committee, we then will go into this particular presentation to hear the recommendations around the strategies for the preference policy and how the implementation will be adjusted. We can ask all the questions, please, that can possibly come to your mind so that we can make an informed decision tonight. With that being stated, we have two folks that are presenting, Ms. Goodlow and Ms. Gordon.
Well, good evening, everyone. And so we are going to kind of tag team this report on the preference policy, Davisha and I. And as Dr. Holt mentioned, this is a continuation from our presentation in May to give you some updates of what we've accomplished since May and where we're going. So first I want to say thank you for the committee's continued support of the preference policy. And as I said, we're here today to share program updates, recent enhancements, and what we're planning next. And our goal is to improve how we serve displaced families and build stronger community connections. So with that, Ms. Davisha, you want to talk about the current wait list?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Leslie. Good evening, committee, and good evening, colleagues and community members. If we can go to the next slide, please. Excuse me. So this is the total applications that have been received by to date, broken down by point cohorts. Please note these are all the folks who are currently on our waiting list. It may include duplicative data, so there might be some people who applied a couple times. We do our very best to deduplicate. So in the 6-point cohort, we have 311. In the 5-point cohort, you'll see we have about 186 folks on the waiting list. In the 4, it's 275. 3-point is coming in close to 2 at 406 families on the waiting list. 2-point cohort has about 500 families, and the 1-point cohort has 231. And our ever-growing 0-point cohort is at 2,206. Next slide, please. Leslie, would you like me to kick this back to you or cover it?
Yeah, I'll start and then you can jump in. So as we have been working through the changes, some of which were requested by our community partners, and some things that as we've been working through trying to figure out how to make this a better process of things we needed to change, things that we needed to improve. And so we have come up with like some key goals that as we made these changes that we wanted to address. And so one of the first things is communication and engagement. We want to make sure that that everything we put out is clear, that explains the expectations for people on the list and for our community partners, that we want to increase our visibility, as Ms. Gwen talked about, of being at events and being able to explain to people what we're doing and why, and then hosting some virtual info sessions with the changes, so as people get onto the list, they understand what this is, what it isn't, and what their responsibility is being on the list. And then the second piece of that is data management and accuracy. I have 3 people on this team, and they spend a lot of time doing data entry, taking information from emails and putting it into a spreadsheet, or taking stuff from a download and putting it into a spreadsheet, or taking stuff from letters and putting it into so there's just a lot of taking things from one place and putting them into another place. And so we met, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but we are looking at a customer management system, and we will be doing an RFP later this year. And so
What's an RFP?
a request for proposals for a software program. And so those are the 2 key goals around communications and then data management. Divisha, you want to take the next one?
Next slide, please. So we heard the community and we heard our stakeholders, our partners. The next core tenet is to build better relationships with our community members as well as our partners. We're hoping to partner with local organizations to expand some of our community outreach. I'm excited to note that we are wanting to launch an ambassador program to reach out to hard-to-reach communities, starting with the senior community. We're hoping to host outreach sessions at libraries, government offices, and other nonprofit sites, and also virtually to ensure accessibility for people who may be immunocompromised or unable to attend in-person events. We're hoping through these meetings to do more than just talk at people, but to collect direct feedback from the applicants on the waiting list, as well as community partners, so we can have that informed program improvements. So we're looking to go far together and not go at a fast pace, but to take it easy, to continue to build through these sessions with people. Next slide, please.
You want to take this one too, Ms. Divisha?
I can, yes. So a little bit on why this work matters. We want to make sure we're building an equitable and efficient process. One of the 3 points of improvements based on what we've heard from community partners and other stakeholders is that our communication needs to be improved. Also, managing our data, the way that we are inputting information of applicants is, as Leslie has mentioned, is quite strenuous and leaves room for margins of errors. We also want to make sure we're engaging with the community, so making sure we're in the community, explaining to community how this process works, as well as listening. We want to make sure that when we are going back to the data, when we are managing this information, that we're collecting information that's useful not only for property owners, but that helps match people better with housing opportunities. I'll expand on that a bit more in later slides, but we have to hit it at these 3 points in order to see real progress. And those are the areas where we're hoping to strengthen, so we can strengthen the program overall. Next slide, please.
All right, so where we're going, and that's mostly what we're going to be talking about tonight, is, as we've stated, enhancing outreach, making sure we're clear in what the preference policy list is and what it isn't, putting together new educational resources for our website, new flyers, all new information to help with families when we're out in the community so that they understand. We want to, with Gwen and Divisha, have been working very closely on how do we reach those populations that have not been able to access the services. As we stated, a new customer relations management system to decrease the data entry so that the staff can be out in the community more and not sitting doing data entry. And then continuous improvement and I'm going to talk about, I gave you some drafts of some forms and some documents where we're going to be doing quality assurance calls with folks on the list. Whenever we make a referral, when that list comes back, then we will be contacting each of those people and asking them the same questions so that we can report out a couple times a year to the Oversight Committee of what kind of feedback we're getting from folks once they've been referred. So we know anecdotally there have been issues with people being on a list and saying they've never been contacted, or when they were contacted, the information wasn't clear. They weren't given clear instructions of what they needed to do, and then the opportunity passed them by. So I'm going to walk through the QA form in a little bit that shows these are the kinds of things that folks should be asking, and that they should be the information that we can track to make sure that if I call you or say, hey, Dr. Holt, your name came up, there's a 2-bedroom available, you said you wanted a 2-bedroom, they're going to be calling you. And so, Garlington Place is going to call you. They've got a 2-bedroom. And then when we get that list back, if they say, oh, well, Dr. Holt didn't qualify, or he didn't respond, then I'll then call you or Divisha, Ramon, or Hodo and say, hey, Dr. Holt, they said you didn't respond. And you could say, yeah, I talked to him, or nobody ever called me. I didn't get an email. What are you talking about? So that's why we're going to be doing these QA calls. All right. So, Ms. Divisha, next slide.
Sounds good. So a little bit about what we've been working on. Aside from planning, we've been enhancing our communication. So where we're starting first is we're going to be contacting a little over 3,000 applicants. It's actually going to be upwards of 4, asking them for their building and bedroom preferences. This is to just outline information on our data. We've begun collecting bedroom preferences from people on the waiting list through the application portal, and we will continue to. We are trying to make sure, again, that people are moving where they would like to move and not where they feel that they have to. So letting people know what all their options are in more than one sense is the way to go. So we're asking people that again. We're taking it slow in this process, and that we're going to be drafting follow-up messages to people. We're starting with the 6-point cohort and using information that we're getting from the families on that part of the list to inform how we're moving forward and how we're going to follow up with and let people know, and even set a deadline for responses for the remaining point cohorts. We plan to roll that out gradually over the next 4 to 5 months with notices sent to them, hopefully weekly, to allow for consistent outreach and manageable follow-up. We are also working, Leslie already mentioned the pre-application form, the quality assurance form. I will move on to our back-end system. So we've restarted the procurement process for a new customer relationship management system. We're hoping to find something that could help automate communication, reduce manual entry, and make it for an overall better applicant experience. We want to make sure the process is smooth. Most folks have been on the list for some time, and some folks are fairly new. They all should be able to remain engaged through our communications, but that has to, some part of that and some features of that we're hoping to be automated. So that has started back up.
So I'll just add that we have been working with our data team. Aurelia, who's part of our team, doing great work with us on the data. And the application has created a QR code that will go out. It'll be individually connected to each person on the list for them to respond to be able to give us this information. And people that don't respond, either through the letter or through the QR code, will be removed from the list. And we talk to other folks that manage these kinds of lists, and Home Forward in particular, and when they send you a notice, you have a certain amount of time to respond. If you don't respond in that amount of time, you're off the list. We have just given a lot more leeway, because we know that folks have been traumatized and all of these things, but at some point folks have to kind of take responsibility for where they are on the list so that we can help them get into housing. And we've had probably, even out of our office, probably a 40 to 50%, probably half the people don't respond even to us. And so they get on the list and then they don't respond. So this is our way to cull the list, make sure it's people who actually are looking for housing and that we have updated information on. So the customer relations management system, we know that it takes about 4 to 6 months for us to do a request for proposal, or RFP, through city procurement and working with the Bureau of Technology Services. So we're hoping to have something by the first part of the year. We have looked at a couple, one in particular that we really, really liked, but I can't say it out loud because then that would be like we're giving some kind of preference. When we're going to do the RFP. If any of you are interested in being sitting on as part of the proposal team to review and sit in on the when they do their their presentations, just let me know. You can either email me or Gwen or Divisha to let us know that you're interested in sitting in on that. Since we're talking about the pre-app form, I did, we might as well cover that. I did share a copy. This is created as a fillable form, so it'll be online, and we'll have paper copies as well. But it is a fillable form that they can just fill out online and then email it back. But this is some of the information that our partners have asked for in order to help them make a determination for eligibility and speed the process by which someone can get into housing. So first is listing all the people that live in the household. If they are looking for a Section 8 unit or a non-Section 8 unit, we know we get a lot of people that are looking for just a Section 8 unit that are on the list, and that's a different list. And so the buildings that have Section 8 in them have to have their own waiting list. People who are on the preference policy list can get on that list, but they don't get into a Section 8 unit through the preference policy, because that's a violation of HUD's preference priority guidelines. Current estimated income, either monthly or annually, their contact information. If it's a case manager submitting the information, the name and contact information for that case manager, because we get these email addresses sometimes that are actually a case manager's email address. And then when we reach out to them, they're like, oh, which client are you asking about? And so then we've got to go back through and try to find who had that email address and connect them back. So, and then if they're looking for an ADA unit, and then they would do an electronic signature and date. And so when we contact people and say, hey, we've got a 2-bedroom available in these buildings, you said you were interested in these buildings, we'll send them this. When they send this back to us, that's the trigger to say, yes, I'm interested. And then their name goes on a smaller list to go to one of the partners. So instead of sending them 100 names, they may only get 10 to 12 names. And so when they go through those 10 to 12 names in the order, whatever their preference point order and their order on the list, and then I'll get to that point. But this is the trigger, is them sending this back. Then once we get the list back, the quality assurance form, everybody should have a copy of that. So this is also a fillable form that will be filled out either by myself or one of the staff. And these are the questions that we are looking to have answered. If they were contacted by the property management team, how they were contacted, how was the communication, did the staff explain the screening criteria, did they get enough time to submit documentation, did they have any difficulties during screening, and were they offered assistance? Do they feel like they were treated fairly? What the final decision was? If they know what the reason was that they were denied, if they were denied, if they were offered an opportunity to stay on the wait list, any concerns, what could have improved their experience, and then if it's they give consent for us to release the information, and then there's a box that didn't show up at the bottom for any additional comments. So we'll be able to take this and have qualitative data that we can share with the committee, that we can share with our partners about what people are saying after they've been referred. And then I talked about the CRM. So, Divisha, you want to talk about the next slide?
Communications objectives. So we're preparing a new referral process where, but first, of course, we're conducting a bit of maintenance. That is where I mentioned that we will be reaching out to the families on the wait list to collect information. So in addition to the bedroom size and the building preference, we're also going to ask for their contact information just to make sure we have the most up-to-date information. What we're taking is all the families who respond in that list, to that request. We will take that and form a new list. And then from there, we'll have a new referral process that we will implement. That referral process will involve simply, again, a first touch, doing something very similar, asking, are you still interested in remaining on the wait list? Are you interested in this particular housing opportunity? It will be based off the requests that we receive from housing providers. So when they have a vacancy in their building, we will reach out to the families on the waiting list, ask them those questions, and refer them based on their responses. We're going to start first with the 6-point cohort and move gradually through each group. We're going to track all those responses, and of course, based on engagement, we're going to make sure that families are informed of what both what the risks are if they don't respond, and what the next steps are if they somehow miss the deadline to respond over the next 5 months. We want to make sure that this process is deliberate and thoughtful. We recognize that we're working with a lot of families on the wait list, again, who have been on the list anywhere from a few months to a few years. So we want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to be informed that this is sort of their last opportunity to stay on the list, in hopes that they are matched with housing opportunities that best fit their needs, and how important it is to respond to us and to property owners, as we will be the stricter on removal, just to make sure everyone has a fair opportunity to move through the wait list, with priority being with those who are most impacted by urban renewal activity. Is there anything you'd like to add, Leslie?
Nope.
Okay, next slide, please.
All right, so I have covered some of this already. We are resuming communication with vendors. We're working with our data team, procurement, and BTS on preparing an RFP.
Who's BTS?
I said that earlier, Bureau of Technology Services.
Okay.
New system goals is to automate the applicant communication. And so some of the systems we looked at can incorporate the application into it. Some of them can link to the application that we currently have. And they can send messages to applicants straight from the system. They can send text messages. So it just really reduces a lot of extra work. We can incorporate the development partners and be able to send messages to them, and be able to track all of that through one system. So we're really excited about this, and just how much more reporting we're going to be able to do, what our compliance is going to be so much better. And as I mentioned, that it's going to take us probably till the first part of the year to select a vendor. All right, Divisha.
Next slide, please. So this is just going over what we're planning to do for the next 6 months in relation to what we just discussed. So in housing partner engagements, excuse me, we will be hosting a meeting or meeting series to notify housing partners about these changes to the referral and waiver process. One thing we learned in this is that there are a lot of gaps in information. There's also a high amount of turnover in the leasing space. It does seem that managers, of course, come and go, they move between buildings, but one thing that doesn't change is the need to know how this works. So by hosting regular series of meetings, we are hoping to bridge that gap, make sure people are well informed about how this process works from the perspective of for the housing providers. We plan to collaborate them to review the updated process as much as they'd like to be involved, gather feedback, and identify any areas of improvement from what we're proposing. After that, we plan to have ongoing check-ins and trainings to support implementation to answer questions. There will be some research on the national models for the ambassador program and structure and making sure we're aligning goals. In this is a hope to work with community members actually to empower them. One thing we have observed over the years is that word of mouth and sort of communal learning is the style that people usually like to learn about this program. We could, of course, place ads, and we will continue to, or push out other marketing materials and outreach materials, be present at community events. But most of the time I'm hearing from people is, oh yeah, I heard about this from my cousin, or my grandmother signed me up, or my mother signed me up. So we want to empower that. So we're going to be looking into models to continue the work that community is already doing and looking for a way to recruit and onboard them so we can continue to reach some of those people who are hard to reach. Also creating a system where there is ongoing training, because just in the same way that housing providers need training on what any changes that are going on, the ambassadors will need that as well. So keeping that in alignment with transparency and collaboration. And in the spirit of collaboration, we're trying to make sure that we keep an active relationship through regular check-ins and trainings with ambassadors as well.
All right, next slide. Okay, and again, this is some of the things we've already talked about, communication and educational materials. Big thing is refreshing our flyer content, updating our FAQs. We're going to do some instructional videos thanks to Miss Gwen. We're going to video the staff walking people through how to apply, how to engage, when they've got questions, how they can get their questions answered, doing some virtual sessions, and being out in the community. So I'm just really excited about us having a system that enables the staff to get out of the office and not spend so much of their time transferring information from emails to a spreadsheet. One thing that that I wanted to cover before we get to questions is what you've heard me talk about is a waiver. So right now, if a unit has been vacant for 90 days, they can request a waiver from the preference policy. And right now that's just an email and they send me the unit and ask for a waiver. What we're proposing is in this new system, everybody has a copy of the waiver request form in the stuff that I gave you. And this is again, this is a fillable form that when they send their list back that Divisha has sent them with however many people is on it, and they've not been able to lease the unit, then they can send this waiver request form along with their list back and say, hey, Leslie or Divisha or whoever is doing them at that point, we had 10 names, we contacted all 10, nobody qualified or nobody wanted the unit or whatever it is. And so they would fill this out. They'd say how many households have been contacted. I would find out from Divisha, did we actually get the list back? Did they fill it out correctly? And if so, they would automatically get their waiver at that point. So they wouldn't have to wait. If the unit's been vacant for 45 days, they wouldn't have to wait the additional 45 days to lease it outside of the preference policy. As part of this system that we're talking about, I'm hoping that we can track waivers in it as well, because right now I've created a spreadsheet to track waivers, and then I try to monthly send out emails saying, hey, you got a waiver in May of 2024. What's going on? Are they staying in the unit? Is the unit coming back on to the preference policy? And so I'd like to be able to automate that as well, and eventually get the waiver request in the system as well. So just wanted to cover that before we go on to discussion and input. So we've talked about a lot. At the last meeting, we covered a lot of process steps that we were looking to change. And so we've got these 3 questions for the committee to open up conversation before we get to the recommendation. What suggestions do you have about how we've proposed changes? Are there any concerns or engagement strategies we should consider? And are there any additional metrics or updates that you'd like to see or you'd like us to incorporate? So with that, I turn it back over to you. And thank you, Divisha.
Yeah, thanks, Divisha. Thank you, Ms. Leslie. Thanks for the team. Quite a bit of work has gone into getting us to this point, and I appreciate that. I'm going to begin by offering opportunity for our online team members to ask questions should they have them. Looks like John has dropped again. Have we lost John?
No. Can you hear me?
Okay. Okay. All right. You got moved on the screen, and the top of the screen is kind of tiny, buddy. So, but thank you. Glad you're here. Of the 3 questions, do you have this document, John?
Yeah, I read it over. I don't have it in front of me right now, no.
Okay.
But I have a clear understanding about it. I reviewed it already.
Awesome. Do you have suggestions about what's been proposed?
Well, allow me to track for a second, and good evening, everybody. I really got excited when I seen this stuff, okay? But I guess I got a question, and so over the last several meetings, we've evolved here with some concerns and stuff. But my question is, does this committee actually, are we involved with some of these changes that go on in the housing authority? Do we, or, up until before now? Or do we have to wait for them to come in and do a long presentation like they did for us to have any input into these processes? Is that how that works?
I think there's a combination. I think we have the opportunity to, if there are suggestions, ideas, things that we believe need to be addressed, we can always present that, or we can always have conversations. We don't have to wait for presentations for us to have conversations in regard to things that are concerned, but it would have to go through us as a committee. So if there's something that a committee member is concerned about, they certainly can, through email, communicate, and then we would determine how best to address it. Does that respond to you, John?
Yeah, to some degree, but I do appreciate and again excited about the work that they've done. But it's kind of ironic to some, because when you start thinking about what was the original statement about sort of coalescing the community and becoming alongside strategically and engaging in that process, that has been written, and it's exciting to see that we've caught up to that, like things like the CRM systems. Some of our organizations in our community have already been engaged in these CRM systems for the last several years. So I guess I have a little bit of a pushback in the sense of this RFP and looking for something outside of our community to begin to look at. And I'm not so sure if we are looking outside of so don't let that set too well with you. But the concern that I would have is to make sure that we do have community people and community partners more engaged in some of these processes, because these things already exist. And these community engagement and community outreach pieces, You know, PCRI had written a community engagement piece a long time ago as to how to get and address this waiting list. And I would hope that you guys had gone back and read that in community engagement piece. And if you haven't, I would suggest you do it, because it has some real pertinent pieces about how you coalesce the community in a way to get them in alignment with some of these strategies around housing. And then some of the other stuff about the media pieces and coming in contact with hard to reach demographics. Some of us historically have written a book on that title itself, and I was surprised and excited about hearing that being used, hard to reach demographics. But there is some strategies that are already existing that are out there on how to navigate those demographics and how to coalesce them toward a target or a strategy. And so I would like to make sure that those things are brought to the table as well, so that we don't look too far beyond those things that exist in our community. Thank you.
No, thank you, John. And I would ask you if there are specifics that you are aware of, that you make sure that we've got that as something we're presenting to PHB, right?
It would be my pleasure.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
Ms. Goodlaw.
Oh, I was just gonna, about the CRM. John, I hear you about what community partners are doing, and unfortunately, because of bureaucracy, we can't just say, oh, well, we're gonna use what PCRI uses. We have to actually go through a procurement process, and if they've got something that they built that works, then they could apply to do the CRM for the preference policy. If they've got something that they're using that they bought off the shelf, or that they bought from buying from an organization, I'd be happy to hear about it, so we make sure we send them the RFP, because we want to make sure it's something that's integrated. The one system that we did look at, that I can't say the name, we can buy licenses for our community partners to be able to use, and I'm sure most of them are like that, so they would be able to get directly into the system and do their data entry, and send their list back through the system. And so we are really trying to find something that integrates with the application, that we can give customers access to, that we can give our partners access to, and has a reporting ability that we're going to need going forward, and that reduces data entry. That is my biggest thing, is like, I've got to get my staff from doing data entry, 6 hours a day. So if if you know of systems, please let us know. I see Antoinette is on the call, and she's our data and systems manager. I'm sure she'd be happy to hear or receive that information, so we can make sure we get RFP notice out to them when we're ready.
You know, I spent a lot of time over at the University of Oregon's technology lab. And I'll tell you, we are nowhere close to hitting the target of what the potential for technology could potentially do at this point in time, in terms of this arena that we're talking about. I would suggest somebody go over and pay a visit to the University of Oregon over at the Balmer Institute and take a look at the utilization of that technology in this arena. So, I mean, they're light years down the road from what we're looking at right now. So, rather if it's in the area of robotics, rather if it's in the area of AR, AI, any of these areas. I mean, after all, this is what I do for a living. And, so I would strongly suggest someone take a small tour over at the University of Oregon's Technology Lab and take a look at some of the applications and utilizations for technology they have. And it may impress you a little bit. So, but I hear you about the CRM systems. Some of the systems that we're even using does a lot of data correlation. You just do input and it spits out whatever requirement you're asking it to do. And so there's a number of things that can be done. So I think I have two sides of this story that I'm really, one, I'm excited, Leslie, about where you guys have gone. But the other question is that sometimes I get a little bit uncomfortable when I'm sitting in these meetings and I'm being told about a process that has come to bear but I'm not necessarily sure on how our input or how our participation with how that came to be. So versus just sitting here listening to a long presentation and then I gotta make some input to that. I was just curious about how we even arose here in terms of all this work that has been done. Now here we are being presented with it, but I didn't have any input into any of that work or any thoughts or any questions or so that's the area. I have two sides on this.
So, John, we did take feedback from the May meeting when we did the initial presentation about the changes. And so we tried to incorporate the feedback that we got from the committee at the May meeting into the things that we've done, that we've been working on since then. If there are things that you think we still need to consider some of the things you talked about, the CRM, the hard to reach demographics, mainly it's seniors which is still so funny to me to be talking about seniors when I'm about to be 60. But we know that a lot of seniors, and particularly folks over 60 or over 70, are not as technology savvy. So how do we reach them without, Dr. Holt was just saying, well, what if folks don't know how to use a QR code? And so we've been talking about those types of things in the office, about making sure that we connect with aging services at the county, that we can get out to some of the aging services centers, talk to folks in person, help them, bring some laptops, help them fill things out, because we are going to be leasing up the M. Carter Commons next year. I think late next year will be, and that's a over 55 building. And so we want to make sure that we're reaching those folks and that they have opportunities to move into a brand new building on the Max across the street from Kaiser, that's near grocery stores, all of the things that are going to be available in that particular building. So I hear everything you're saying, and I just want the committee to know that we really try to incorporate all of the feedback that we got, both from the committee and from our community partners as we were working through these changes.
Gotcha.
Appreciate that. And I appreciate the questions and comments. Go ahead, John. I want to cut you off.
No, I'm done with it. Like I said, it just so happens that this is an area that I spend a lot of my time in, and it's so ironic.
So what I hear you saying, John, is call me. Is what you're saying? Is that what things are happening, give John a call.
Yeah, we got a little bit of history with this.
So John is the guy. So from the Oversight Committee,
we got over 15 years in this category in terms of even working with housing. So
wonderful.
I'm just. Yeah, so anyway, I just like to be a little bit more utilized in this area.
We got you, buddy. I appreciate it. I'm glad you're part of the team, and we're going to lean on you.
I don't care. I got a little bit more life left in me. In this area,
thanks, buddy.
It'll be my pleasure. Yep.
Appreciate it. Ms. Sheila, questions, comments in regard to the presentation? Any suggestions you have about the proposed plan? Are there concerns or engagement strategies that you think should be considered, and what additional, if any, metrics would you like to see?
Well, I think I'm going back to the basics here and in thinking about as we're doing the outreach and people are coming in, what kind of expectations they have and what kind of us and what kind of expectations we should be able to have of them. So I don't know. I like the idea of all the collaboration and data exchange and coordination, but it would be nice to have a a sheet or something for everyone to kind of give them a sense of what to expect and what are the rights and responsibilities that folks will have who come into the buildings, and that I think would be real useful in setting the stage for what they can expect of us and what we want them to know that we will be expecting of them.
That's great.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Thank you very much. It's very helpful. Any other thoughts or ideas? Ms. Sheila, anything else?
Oh, I'll call Leslie. Yeah.
That works fine. That, that works fine. We'll come around the table. Kevin.
Yeah, I think first a comment, like it's clear how much work you all have put into this over the last couple meetings, like thinking of all the feedback from the community partners, feedback from this committee. Like, just want to commend you for how much thought has gone into this and solving a lot of the key problems that came out of, you know, some of the more kind of contentious meetings over the last few months. So first, just like thanks for all of the work for you and the team that has gone into this. Second, also like happy to help with any of the tech modernization stuff, CRM. Like that's a lot of what I do in my day job and my career is data management, CRM systems, and I've rolled them out at several companies. So if I can help at all with the procurement process or even just like knowing what questions to ask these vendors, I'm happy to help. Or even if it's going to take months to get a new system, like if there's things I can help with in the current systems we have, or even just like another voice to see how we're currently managing spreadsheets. Not saying I have answers that you all don't have, but sometimes just having another look at things can help. So I would also throw my name in the hat as someone who's more than happy to help if I can. And then one question, I think it's this is a clear kind of issue coming out of, I think, the May meeting of the sort of long and extended wait list and the need to kind of make it much more actionable. So I like sort of commend that. I guess the question is if somebody doesn't heed the warnings and then the final thing that gets them to engage is they actually get kicked off of the wait list, is there an opportunity for them to reapply? And how does that process work for them?
So there's two things that they can do. One, they can appeal.
Okay.
So if we take them off because they've been non-responsive, which is usually the reason why we take people off, they can appeal and say, oh, well, you had the wrong phone number. The numbers were transposed. Or I've been in the hospital. Or, you know, we've had people say, I've been taking care of my ailing grandmother and I've not been on my email in 6 months. And so with those kinds of things, we put them back on the list in the same spot that they were in.
Okay.
Folks that we don't get an appeal for, they can always reapply, but then they're in a different place on the list.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
They don't go back. So if they were number 250 and then they're non-responsive, when they reapply, they're going to be number 870. But if they have 6 points, they have 6 points. So they'd still be in the 6-point cohort, but they'd be farther down on the list.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Rumo.
I first want to thank everybody who has worked on the preference policy. I know this have been said at different meetings that we know the preference policy works, but to see changes in the process gives me hope that this will get easier for tenants as they apply for at these properties. The only question I have in regards to the metrics, in addition to the waiver, is will data be tracked on how often these properties aren't filling the units? Because I know it goes, after 45 days, they'll lease it to whoever qualifies, and then after the year, it goes back under the preference policy. But will that be tracked on how often these properties are submitting the waivers? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of my, I track now, but it's harder because it's all through email. And so by using this form, I'll be able to track a little bit better. And then once we get the CRM, it'll be incorporated so that every time somebody gets a waiver, I can pull a report on which units, which buildings. So if there's issues with, I'll use Charlotte B. Rutherford, not that there's anything wrong with that building, but they don't have an elevator. And so we have a lot of issues with trying to lease the units on the 4th floor because there is no elevator. And so as we are going through, if I'm seeing, oh, well, they're always requesting a waiver for the 4th floor units, then maybe we consider, okay, maybe we exclude those from the preference policy. Or maybe there's something else that we can do. And so that's another piece of this is being able to better track how many waivers I'm given a year, how many units are being waivered a year, and then how often those units are coming back into the system. So I'll be able to track that through this new process.
Excellent question. And I think you captured that Kevin volunteered to be part of the
Yes, I
reviewing
did.
process. We captured that. Okay, want to make sure that we.
Antoinette, you heard that right? Hopefully she's on. Well, we got it on tape.
Miss Virgie.
I'm impressed with the work that's been done to make this a better program and to make sure we get the most out of it. And the thing about the kicking people off the list, though, I think that needs a little bit more, something else. I don't see what we have here is enough to really say you're no longer on there, because with the possible questions out of the client's control, where if it's a wrong number or transposition of number, I think we have to do some more work.
Thank you, Ms. Virgin. I think, Kevin, you spoke to it also in terms of your question. I would echo that. I appreciate the reference to Home Forward. I would say that there's been a culture in other organizations that have set a standard, and the culture we've been operating from is changing, and change takes time. It takes time for people to capture and understand, and so I appreciate the grace that has been extended. I'm going to lay in heavy on this. I can't think of more grace that could be extended for something as critical as housing for this community that's trauma impacted. These aren't just everyday folks. These aren't just people trying to get on a Section 8 voucher. These are people we are fully intended to help reach and lift. And I know it's been crazy, and I appreciate the continued emphasis around data entry. That is wild to me, to think 6 hours a day to try to move information from this list to that list to this list to that list. It just begs for human error, and not saying that that's the case. I'm not suggesting that people aren't doing their job or not doing it well. It's just a lot to process. And so being able to get the expert John Washington and the expert Kevin involved in the process of CRM and CRM management and doing review, et cetera, to help lift that load, I think will be wonderful. I do think, and I strongly caution, how rapidly we remove people from the space. Yes, there are deadlines that have to happen. There's no question. But if we're talking about people who, and we don't know, I don't know how computer savvy you are, don't know how tech savvy you are, don't know how comfortable you are with QR codes or whatever it is that we're changing. Any change in an entity or organization has impact. We all know this. And there takes time. It takes time. It's an awkward transition. After change is beginning to be implemented, there's an awkward transition as that's being executed. So I just want to weigh in heavily that we think thoroughly through how we make sure people are connected. Because we want to make sure we're lifting everybody we can. And I'm not suggesting that Portland Housing Bureau doesn't want that either. That isn't my suggestion. So I hope that's clear. Excellent. Wow.
So I do have something that I need to walk the committee through.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not done.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Wow. That the commitment to have personal contact with everyone that's on the list and making phone calls and so forth. I don't know how to accurately or verbally address that, but that is more than impressive. That is more than impressive to give the effort to make sure that the folks who have responded at least are contacted. I think that's commendable. And I'm sure that you've got your plan and your strategy with how to do that. 3,000 families, 3,000 calls. It's a lot of time and a lot of energy to get here. I do have a question about timeline around implementation. I saw where we're headed, what we're doing, what we're working on, and I see that gradually over the next 4 to 5 months, what do we mean? And you said, Divisha, that we're going slow and not trying to make it rapid. But what do we have in mind in terms of a timeline? Do we have a clear idea around that?
So as Divisha mentioned, we're starting with the 6-point families, rolling out this information collection. So they'll be first. We're going to see how that goes. And if there are any glitches or anything, then we will, recoup and then go out to the 5s, the 4s, the 3s, et cetera. So we're hoping that by probably the end of September, we should have made it through all of the point cohorts with gathering this information. We may have to slow it down. We may speed it up depending upon how quickly we get people respond. This is in conjunction with a number of other things that we're doing. So that's just one piece of this transition is how many bedrooms are you looking for? Do you have building preferences? So that when we get a request from Charlotte Rutherford for Charlotte Rutherford said we have a 2-bedroom, that we're not sending information out to people who need a 3-bedroom or who want a studio. And that's how we've been operating is if you're on the list, your name gets submitted if there's a studio available, if there's a 3-bedroom available, and we have no way.
Right.
And so people are non-responsive because they're like,
I'm not looking for a studio. Absolutely.
So between the pre-application form that we're going to be sending out as units come available, and those come back, and this data collection, we're hoping that, again, by late fall, we should be up and running with a lot of these new processes. And by the first of the year, again, fingers and toes crossed, that we will have a CRM selection. I see Antoinette turned her camera on, and she can speak a little bit about the CRM.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Leslie. I was trying to find my mute button. I did want to say that I have been listening and very much appreciate all of the feedback, the recommendations, and the offers for collaboration. And I see that Divisha has also put some notes in the chat as well.
Thank you. So a couple things that I wanted to mention before we get to the recommendation, the summary of the recommendations and you all voting. One of the biggest issues that came out of the May meeting and that we've talked about over and over and over again, and is in our report, is the mismatch between BIPOC incomes and a 60% unit. And particularly for Black families, we know that their incomes on average are about 55%. So if you get into a 60% unit, you're already rent burdened. And so there's not enough 30% units. And so Helmi and I and Angel and Josh and a number of other people, we've been trying to figure out, can we do a different rent calculation for the city of Portland? Do we petition HUD to do an AMI calculation that does not include homeowners? So we are looking for some options. We do have a little bit of money from Metro that we've been able to that we're likely going to be able to put into buildings that have not closed, so that have not financially closed, to be able to buy down, increase the subsidy. Albina Vision has done that on their own for Albina 1. So a 30% unit, the rent is about 26 or 27%, and a 60% unit is somewhere around 47 or 48%, so that people that aren't at 60% are not going to be rent burden leasing one of those units. So that is a big problem, not just for these 11 buildings, but it's a problem across the city. that because 100% AMI for a family of four is now just about $125,000, which is just unheard of.
It's certainly not reflected in the income of the folks here in our city.
Yes. So when you look at that and where a lot of BIPOC folks' incomes are, when you're rent burdened at 60%, that's, pretty significant. And some people upwards of $500 a month of rent burden, depending upon what size unit they're going into. So we are working on that. That's not in this recommendation. The other thing that Helmy mentioned that we requested from council, some funds to do a vacancy resource pool. So if folks had a unit that was vacant more than 45 days, they could apply to this fund and have the rent paid until they could get it leased. And council opted to not support that. We did talk about it with the Housing and Homelessness Committee, and both Councilor Avalos and Councilor Dunphy supported it, but she didn't have enough votes. And so we are continuing to look for resources out of the available funds that we have at the Bureau that we could potentially still have that fund available later in the year. So that being said, I wanted to walk you through this recommendation. I know those folks online don't have copies of this. That's why I'm going to walk through it, and we'll get you an email copy tonight so that you've got it in your email.
John has his hand up.
Is it possible?
Go ahead, John.
Is it possible to ask a question? And the question I have, and this might have been said somewhere along the line, but I'm just curious about it. When I was looking at the cohort list, right? Is there any unique idiosyncrasy about the diversity of those numbers? What's unique about that list in terms of the differences between each of those cohorts? Is there some specialized nuance or idiosyncrasy about each of those categories, about cohorts 5 or 4 or 1 or any of those things, and why are the numbers so all over the place? I mean, is there a unique nuance about that?
Yeah, so a 6-point household means that both they and their ancestor lived in an address that was closest to city action. And so the smaller the points, that means the farther they were away from city action. So if I'll just use me and my kids. I grew up in Northeast Portland. We lived all over. We moved 11 times. And so if I applied for the preference policy, I could try each one of those addresses that I lived in with my mother until I got one that gave me 3 points. My current house gives me 3 points because I'm smack dab in the middle of Interstate, the Albina Community Plan, the Emmanuel Plan, and so I would get 3 points. So that means me, my kids, my grandkids all would have 6 points based on nearness to city action. So the 0-point households mean that they didn't live anywhere within the study area, neither did their ancestor, and so or guardian, and that's why they have 0 points. So that's the nuance. We do track race data of the folks that apply, but we don't use that as an indicator because it's about geography, not about race. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it shined a light on a little bit of that stuff because I just found it really fascinating that those numbers had such a diversity to them, So thank you very much.
You're very welcome, sir. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through this memo for those folks online. I'll just read it. I know I don't usually do that, but I'm going to do it because we've got 2 members online so that they know what they're potentially voting on. Portland Housing Bureau recommends the Oversight Committee support the proposed enhancements to the North-Northeast Preference Policy Program as outlined in the July 2025 presentation. These recommendations aim to strengthen communication, improve data integrity, and increase equitable access to housing opportunities for historically displaced families in North and Northeast Portland. Summary of recommended enhancements: communication and engagement, launch culturally responsive and consistent messaging through community events, social media, newsletters, and in-person outreach. Host ongoing information sessions and produce educational materials to assist applicants in navigating the program. Expand visibility through tabling at local events and partnerships with trusted community organizations. And I can read, I'm just really tired. Waitlist management and data accuracy. Conduct comprehensive waitlist management beginning with the 6-point cohort to confirm applicant interest and collect updated preferences. Implement a new pre-application form and quality assurance survey to improve applicant information and the referral process. Remove non-responsive applicants in a phased and transparent manner, ensuring multiple contact attempts. Technology modernization. Procure and implement a customer relationship management system to automate communication, reduce manual data entry, and enhance reporting capabilities. Transition from Excel-based tools to an integrated user-friendly system to better manage the wait list. Relationship building and stakeholder engagement. Launch an ambassador program to connect with hard-to-reach applicants and provide support from trusted community members. Host partner engagement meetings to communicate upcoming changes to referral and waiver processes and gather feedback. Provide partners with technical assistance and training on updated protocols. Educational resources and outreach materials. Refresh flyers, FAQs, and instructional guides to align with new processes. Create instructional videos covering the application process, eligibility, and next steps distributed via website, social media, and QR codes at events. Resource development for a vacancy fund. Continue working to identify and secure resources to establish a vacancy fund to support preference policy buildings. The fund would provide short-term rental assistance to cover units that remain vacant longer than 45 days, improving lease-up timelines and reducing financial risk for development partners. Rationale. These improvements reflect feedback from community partners, applicants, and leasing agents. The enhancements aim to ensure a more transparent, accessible, and efficient program while honoring the policy's core mission to prioritize families with historical ties to the community. We respectfully request that the Oversight Committee endorse these recommendations and support PHB in their phased implementation over the next 6 to 12 months.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to begin by simply offering opportunity of our online committee members to respond. And I'm going to do it like in city council, where when I call your name, you can make your comments if you have any, and then give your vote. Your vote would be I support or I do not support. And those are the words, I support or I do not support. So I'm going to go with you, Miss Sheila.
I support.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Mr. Washington.
Do I have to support it all? It's kind of like, yeah.
You have all the comments. If you want, hey, John, whatever your comments are, please give them, and then your final determination. Yeah, please, sir.
No, there's no comments. I think that they were really clear about what the agenda is and what strategically is trying to be accomplished. I support that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Able to hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
I got
broke
you.
up a
Okay,
little
thank
bit.
you. Yep.
Thank you.
I support. Yep.
Kevin.
I support.
Thank you. Ramon.
I support.
Wonderful. Miss Virgie.
I support.
Well, thank you very much. My comments in regard to our care and concern for individuals and how we go about doing what we do. I laid in intentionally on purpose. This work is critical. and I know we all know it. It's important for me to say it on a regular basis because one of the things I found about us is we easily forget. We are constantly attracted to the next new shiny thing that the folks whose voices aren't heard don't get heard, and someone needs to remind and fight for and speak toward those things. As I look at this list, under number 2, wait list management and data accuracy, the third bullet point illustrates exactly what I was trying to communicate. Remove non-responsive applicants in a phased and transparent manner, ensuring multiple contact attempts. That's enough. I think that speaks to it. That's all we could ever do. So I support. Motion is carried.
Thank you so much to the committee, and we will be sure that we add the number as a data point, the number of people that we're removing from the list for each meeting, so that you're aware and that we can give a summary of why we're removing people. And so, like, 50 people because they were non-responsive and 25 people because they said they didn't want to be on the list, or whatever that is, we'll be able to bring that as a data point going forward.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
So I just
The
need you to sign a copy.
actions and the steps associated with the removals would be great also. So you're asking us to sign? You want us to put our names down? Just me?
Just you need to
Just
sign
me?
as the chair.
Just me?
Just you.
My name?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, public
So
comment.
soon you're going to sign it? Shouldn't you wait a bit? You know?
Do we have anything else? We do. I want to give an opportunity. Do we have any, Norma, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
I think we do. Kathy Roberts, are you still interested? Kathy?
Kathy, if you were here, you would have.
I think did she unmute? No.
No, she has not. You would have 2 minutes to give your comments if you would like to do it. Okay, not hearing Kathy. Did we have anyone else? Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks for coming to tonight's Oversight Committee meeting.
Excuse me, there was
Yes.
a message in text
Yeah,
that's,
yeah, exactly.
that
She said she's muted.
can't come
Oh,
on.
you can't unmute. Can we unmute her?
You should be able to, but I can also try. Let's see. I'm requesting you unmute yourself.
Thank you for putting that in the chat. I can't see
Yeah,
the
we
chat.
can't see the chat.
Ah, you are unmuted.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. My name is Kathy, and I grew up in the Northeast Portland area. My parents, Rick and Mary Lakey, they also owned a little steakhouse between Killingsworth and Alberta there on 13th. I went to St. Andrews, Fabian, Vernon, Woodlawn too. I skipped a whole bunch of classes at Whitaker. I grew up eating JoJo's from the Alberta Street Market and chili freeze from Louisiana Ed's. So this neighborhood's always, it's always going to be a part of me. I am a white woman that has experienced poverty, disability, mental illness, over a decade of chronic homelessness, like many in this community. I've endured displacement, and while I can speak to that experience, I recognize that I am not even in the groups most impacted. The reason I wanted to speak to you guys today, and I kind of put a little bit in the chat when I wasn't sure if I was going to get a chance to speak, is that I work in housing. I work in low-income housing, so I'm familiar with a lot of government processes. I'm not computer illiterate by any means. I touch a computer every day. I always have a phone in my hand. That being said, although my roots are in this community and I'm a part of the community and my parents were a part of the community and we were all born at Emmanuel, I have 0 preference points. And as a member of the community, I wanted to just let you know that the process was really not user friendly. It was hard to apply and much harder to apply for preference. And the way I lost my points are that I verified the wrong ancestor. So like I put down my mom, but forgot which one I put because there was no reminder with the process. So verified one, but claimed the other. And that happened with addresses and people. And so I messed the process all up. But the problem is that once that happened, there wasn't oh, whoops, you did it wrong. Here, come, let's fix it. It was just you have 0 points. So I just wanted to reiterate that I'm Gen X. So when I went to Whitaker Middle School, I was the first class to get offered the elective computer class. We didn't have to do typewriter that year. So I'm 49. So just remember in your new processes that I know I heard you guys say that you want to make sure we're all computer savvy, but that's one big point I wanted to make. And then the second point that's much more brief now that I've introduced myself and made my not that funny jokes, but the second point I want to make is the cohort groups. Why do they expire? Why? Once you've done the work to get on the wait list, right, you're there. If it takes people longer to become a 6 or a 1 or 4 or however to move up that list, if they failed, why is that opportunity not still there to put them in the highest level available as you go along?
Thanks, Kathy. Thank you so much for sticking around and being part of the meeting tonight and weighing in. Let me do two things. Let me say, first of all, I want to encourage you to reach out to Portland Housing Bureau directly, and I think they can help you to get through the process. Thanks for highlighting the difficulty. You're not the first person to talk about challenges associated with going through the process, and it's important to state for the record for others who can hear, we want everyone to be successful, who can be successful, who's been impacted. So let me encourage you to do that. And then secondly, point of clarification, cohort points do not expire. And so it's not a matter of points expiring, nor is it a matter of climbing up the ladder. It is a matter of getting accurate information so that the ranking is reflective of the points that should be appropriately associated with the applicant. So again, let me encourage you to reach out, and I'll do that two ways. Portland Housing Bureau staff that's online, could you turn on a camera and identify yourself, please? And most specifically, Miss Divisha. And I don't know if your information is in the chat where she can reach out to you, but Portland Housing Bureau's phone number, 503-823-2375, 503-823-2375. Someone can put that in the chat, right? And make sure she has it. So we'll make sure you get the information that you need, and I want to encourage you to reach out, and I believe you can get the help necessary. Thanks for being here tonight. Appreciate it. For everyone, thanks for giving us your time on a wonderfully sunny day in July. Appreciate your being here. I said this before. I want to say it again. It's important for us to create a space that is equitably sensitive to the community. And one of the things that we have worked diligently in doing is to be in a easily accessible facility, that it's easy to get to, public transportation. It's easy to get in and out of. It is ADA compliant. And then we go a step beyond. We provide food. We provide a meal. We provide some goodies. And we've got a lot of good food in this room tonight. It's unfortunate that so many of us didn't get a chance to participate in it. So those who are here, you're going to be taking food home with you, I guess. We'll be asking
What was
too.
it?
What was it?
Yeah.
Salad rolls.
It's salad rolls, man. Chicken and pork and I think some
Boy.
beef and tofu and peanut sauce, man. It's, bro. You should. I'll eat yours. Don't worry about it. I got you. And it's open to the public for all who come. It's available for
Somebody
all.
take some of that over to my office, and I'll be there to get it later.
Where's your office at? Where? What? So I appreciate you. This work is essential. It's important. To those of you who continue to volunteer your time, thank you so very much. For people who come on a regular basis, thank you so very much. Let's keep doing the things that are going to make difference for people who won't even know our names. Have a good night, everybody.